Assalamu'alaikum everyone. Welcome back to another episode. I hope you guys are doing incredible. Y'all, it is a new Islamic year. It is now officially Muharram. Guys, we made it. We made it. Finally, another one done. What can we say? So, this is a new Islamic year, and as you guys know, as Muslims, of course, this is what holds the most importance to us when it comes in regards to New Year's and things among that nature. So for starters, how are you? I hope y'all are doing well. I wanted to make this episode as a general one that you can use year around, even if you are not listening to this in the beginning of Muharram, even if you're listening to this way after on a random day and you just want to change your life. I hope that this can help you in some way. In this episode, I wanted to go ahead and talk about some common problems, some common things that people struggle with, and how we can attempt to leave these things behind us, especially in this upcoming of a new year. Every single day that we breathe, every single month and year and week, and every single second is a moment in our life that we will be questioned about. And you guys already know that, but I think it's important to sometimes visualize and imagine the fact that at some point, right, on the day of judgment, we will be shown each and every single thing by the second of how we lived our life. And it's very, very hard, I understand, to always be productive, to always make use of every minute. Sometimes things are a little bit more harder in people's lives than others. And over time, I think even just generally, if it's not a problem of time or productivity, it could be a problem of bad habits, different things as such. So I kind of just want to target a bunch of general areas, and hopefully this can serve as like a little one-stop guide on some general advice on these things. I have had episodes covering basically all of these topics alone in depth. I have a whole episode on prayer. I have a lot of episodes talking about, different things as such. So if you feel like you need advice on one thing in particular and want to hear about it more, you are welcome to go listen to the other episodes. But I hope that this can just help us all become more well-rounded and serve as some reminder if you don't struggle with these things, or if you do. Let's start off with just a little bit on the basics of Muharram though, just to kind of get that out the way, just in case someone might not know. So Muharram is the first month of the Islamic calendar. It basically means like sacred or forbidden. And this was always recognized as a sacred month. Okay, even before the advent of Islam, this month was always recognized as sacred. And as y'all know, all forms of warfare are forbidden during this time. So that's that. There are a lot of misconceptions regarding Muharram. A few of them, the first one being that this is the day when Adam al-Islam was created. B being that this is the day in which Ibrahim al-Islam was born. C being that this is the day in which Allah had accepted the repentance of Adam al-Islam. D being that this is the day on which Qiyamah will take place. E being whoever takes a bath on the 10th of Muharram will never get ill. And then the last one being holding special prayers, offering sacrifices, visiting graveyards on the 10th of Muharram, thinking that there's a special reward in doing so. All of the above are not from authentic Islamic sources, and this is the agreement of a lot of different scholars. It takes a little bit of research to look into it, but you'll most likely find the same. So that's important to mention. But what is one of the most significant days in Muharram is the 10th of Muharram, which is also known as the day of Ashura. It is the most significant day of the month. It's when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, had arrived in Medina. He found the Jews fasting, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, asked them what is the reason for their fasting, and they replied, saying that this is a blessed day, and on this day Allah saved Musa al-Islam and drowned Fir'aun, and so Musa al-Islam fasted on this day in gratitude to Allah, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, I am closer to Musa than you. And he fasted on that day, and he commanded the Muslims to fast as well. This is in Sahih Bukhari. So we see that fasting is definitely a thing here. So that's kind of like a basis on Muharram. Definitely not everything, just kind of like an idea. And now that we have covered that, let's talk a little bit about how we can help and reduce any potential bad habits that may develop, that you may have already had from the previous year or been having, and how we can try our best to make this upcoming year far more better than the last one, inshallah. In this episode, I wanted to incorporate some advice from obviously a scholar, someone more knowledgeable. So I will be sharing some advice from Molana Yunus Patel, his book, where he has different letters where he answers different questions and different things. So I want to incorporate that as I also give you different tricks and tips that have worked for me in regards to these things. So in one of his letters in particular, he got a letter on various weaknesses. And someone wrote, Assalamu'alaikum, my weaknesses are as follows. I'm neglectful of my Salah. Laziness sets in at time of Salah and I find flimsy excuses for which I forego the Salah. I have the same habit when it comes to tilawat. I don't give enough time to it. I have the same habit of speaking lies and I cannot seem to give it up. I gossip. I take pleasure in speaking ill of others and I don't show any respect to my parents or my seniors. I consider myself gullible at times and I'm very materialistic. I am persistent and demanding in getting what I want. Can you advise and offer me remedies for all of these illnesses? So he has like a little bit of a letter where he talks about each of these points and I want to share those points with you while also obviously, like I said, sharing some things that could help in general. One of the things that you'll always find very interesting about the advice that you see in these letters is that it's very, very practical. It's things that you can do in the moment, in the now, implement and start doing. And I think that's very important. A mindset switch is very important. It is also very incredibly important and it's something that will help you drive to those actions and help you do them consistently. But there's a lot of times in life when you don't feel ready, you don't feel like you can do it, or you feel down, you feel lazy. And at times you have to recognize and, acknowledge that it's not always about how I feel. Sometimes it's about I just have to do it. And so if you are someone who's finding themselves in a boat where you're waiting for a feeling, you're waiting for motivation to come in, inspiration to come in, I want to remind you that we don't worship a feeling, we don't worship motivation, we don't worship inspiration. What we do is we know what we should be doing it and we do it even if we don't feel like it. And so there's a certain level of discipline that does have to come in to implement advice. And that's just that. Stubbornness can ruin any and every good advice. If you are stubborn and fixated on your ways, it is unlikely that things can change for you. And that's, of course, the same thing on how Allah doesn't change the condition unless they change the condition of themselves. So obviously, active intention and attempts are important. And then at some point, if you feel like no matter how much you plan, things are still not working out, my biggest piece of advice before I even head into all the different avenues of things we'll talk about is sometimes you have to stop thinking. You have to stop having that dialogue within yourself of, oh my God, I'm too sinful to pray. I'm too lazy to pray. I don't feel like it. Sometimes you just have to stop thinking, get up and do what you have to do. And you have to build habits and things like that. If you get too caught up in listening and hearing your feelings and your emotions on each and every single little thing, especially when it comes to obligatory acts, you'll find that it'll catch you up in a turmoil and it'll be harder and harder to do what you need to be doing. When it comes in regards to someone who is struggling with Salah, not having consistency, when you are having a hard time being persistent with it, right? Let's start off with the first thing. And this is also what he wrote in his letter. He says the acknowledgement of sins is a virtue in itself and is half the battle won within itself. So that's good. So half the battle's already done if you have acknowledged it, okay? Now when it comes in regards to Salah, he did refer to another one of his books to read. Finding that book is a little bit hard, but I want to share a part of his advice where it says, draw up a chart for 1 month and of the days in the week, together with the respective Salah every day. Give an honest account of the effort that you made in reading your Salah in its correct time, and to send it to him at the end of the month. Then he says to also give sadaqah each time you make a Salah and you end up having it become qaza. Now, I wanted to talk about this for a second. I one time had someone give me this piece of advice. In my episode, I posted this episode on prayer where I shared different advice on how you can become more consistent with prayer. And I had someone share this advice. Now, this advice for me personally is not my format of how I personally, go about things. But this I think is helpful for some people. So I had someone tell me like a piece of advice to share. And it was that take a notebook and write down each and every single salah and their timings. And that way you're forced to go to your notebook to look at the timing every time instead of like having your app, see notification and swiping away. I think that's incredible. I think it does work. I do think that you have to be someone who's very diligent and mindful of it. And when you are already consistent, that can help you be more focused on a timely manner because you're like constantly thinking about it that, oh, it's 6. When does, Maghrib happen? Oh, it's 6:51. Like, let me go check. Something like that. Like that can help you be more mindful about it as compared to just seeing the notification and swiping it away. But if you're someone who's having a hard time even praying point blank period, here's some other things I think that can help. As the advice mentioned, drawing up a chart, rating your prayer. You have to kind of give your prayer a little rate, 1 to 5. See how good it is. See, did I have complete khushu? Did I even pray? If you didn't pray, give sadaqah. Until you don't have, something that you're taking out of your life, it's going to be a lot harder. Because if you are not going to, I don't want to say, punish, because I don't think that's the correct word. If you're not going to discipline yourself in creating actions that you should be doing, a lot of times they're not going to get done. So some people, if they miss Fajr, they sleep on the floor. They tell themselves, go sleep on the floor, you missed Fajr. And so it's like, some people might see this, quote, quote, punishment or negative consequences. And it isn't a negative way. It's all about positive reinforcement to do better. Because a lot of times, people fear-mongering into saying, oh, you're going to go to hell, you're going to do this and that. A lot of times it doesn't actually push somebody to do the right action. But you know that the core root of it all is building discipline. And if you know how you build discipline within yourself, that's going to be already half the battle won, and you're going to be doing a lot better. But if you don't know how to build discipline, then that's where you try out different things to see what is it that's going to push you and make you remember, oh, I shouldn't do that again. So if you know that you keep missing Fajr, sleep on the floor. It's going to hurt your back. It's, you'll be uncomfortable for a night, but then that'll make you think like, oh yeah, I can't miss Fajr. You'll get into the habit of it more. If you're someone who has a habit of dismissing your alarms, put your phone very, 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 very far away. Some people like to do like this whole little gymnastics obstacle to get their phone at Fajr. If that's what you have to do, you have to do it. There's some apps where they don't dismiss the alarm until you like solve a math problem, or you go downstairs and like take a picture of like your oven. I remember I shared that app on my Discord. There's many apps like that. You could search for them. Apps that make you like take pictures of something. They make you go take a picture of your microwave. Like you have to go downstairs. You have to go get up to shut off the alarm. Things like that. Annoying. It's irritating. You don't want to hear the alarm. But the whole point is to get you up. And over time, that'll help you. And, sooner or later, you won't be needing to get up at, 5 a.m, taking a picture of your microwave to shut off the alarm. You'll naturally get up and you'll know you'll have to pray. Next thing, a lot of becoming more consistent in your salah is a mindset switch. And it's acknowledging that this is an opportunity to talk to Allah 5 times a day. You guys know that. I have a whole episode where I talk a lot about mindset switching when it comes in regards to salah. It's called Prayer, the Spiritual Conversation Between You and Allah. It's on my podcast. You can go find it. But it's one of the very important things to acknowledge. This is a covenant. This is a time where you get to talk to Allah each and every single day. And growing up, I never really acknowledged it. I never really appreciated this time as I should have. But now that I'm getting older, I try my best to be more mindful of it. I don't know what I'm going to do every day, but I do know that every single day I'm going to talk to God for 5 times a day. And there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in that. And that's the one thing in life that's certain. Every day Allah wakes you up, the one thing in the back of your mind that you know for certain, for sure, that's going to happen, inshallah, through Allah's will, is that you're going to try your best to pray. Even if you die between 2 prayers, if you don't make it, you still had the intention to pray, right? So that's like the one thing that is certain, that you know that you're going to do. And there's an incredible amount of beauty in that, because you don't know in life whether you wake up, what you're going to eat, what you're going to do. You don't know any of those things, but you do know that you're going to pray. I posted this quote on Instagram. It said, the benefit of praying 5 times a day is that a believer always dies between 2 prayers. One that they prayed at most a few hours ago, and one that they were going to pray next. In each prayer, we ask for forgiveness, ask for guidance, and declare His greatness and complete control over our lives. What do we expect when we meet Him, the Master of all kings and the most generous of all, after having prostrated to Him and wanting to worship Him once more but couldn't before our last breath? What a beautiful way to meet our Creator. And I found that incredible, and I thought that that was something that a lot of people should consider, that you are always going to be between 2 prayers, between 2 pillars that kind of protect you, between 2 times where you are constantly seeking forgiveness, asking for Allah's mercy, asking for His help. When it comes to khushu, there's a lot of advice that's out there on the internet. A lot of the popular ones that you guys have heard has been to make sure that you understand what you're reading, like to read the translation, so when you are actually praying salah, you can actually connect to it better. I have a bunch of resources on my islamicfeelings.com link where I have some stuff about prayer, some different stuff that can help you connect and have more khushu in your salah. So that's a common advice people give. I'll share some more that I think can help. 1, obviously reading the translation so you know what you're reading, you know what you're saying, right? 2, being to grade your salah. So if you are someone who point blank period doesn't pray and you're having a hard time even catching your prayer, like the first step is to make sure you're even praying, then your chart should be focused on, let's try to catch prayer. Let's try to, make sure it's the best that it can be. Let's try to make sure that we're consistent. I prayed the Dhuhr today, check it off. And that can be very helpful. If you're someone who's very consistent with praying, but you have a hard time with khushu, I think that it's a good idea to make a chart and try to rate, or mentally just rate your prayer 1 to 5. Asr was a 4. Maghrib was a 5. Dhuhr was a 1. I was very busy. Rate yourself. It's not a harsh thing. It's not a mean thing. It's just that when we present our work in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want it to be a 5. We want it to be the best every time. Because when we present our work in front of our jobs, in front of schools, we always want to make sure that it's a 5. We always want to make sure that it's the best. So let's put our best forward towards Allah, because at the end of the day, that is what really matters. None of these worldly things are going to matter. Our best forth, our 5s, our accumulation of 5s, that we are rating ourselves. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best on the value and how good or bad our prayer was. He knows better, and only He's the ultimate judger. But I think that it is helpful to keep you disciplined and to keep you more awake and focused on your prayer. So if you got like a 2 last time, you're like, what made it a 2? Why was it so bad? Oh, I was too busy thinking about work. So next time when you pray Maghrib, try to narrow it on that and make sure you tell yourself before you pray Maghrib, okay, I know like last time when I was praying Asr, I was too busy thinking about work, but I've had plenty of time between Asr and Maghrib to do work-related things or to think about work. So now let's put our attention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try your best to narrow it down. There's another thing that I feel like really, really helps. And for me, it's to expand your prayer. So a lot of times we have certain sets of surahs, certain things that we read. But I think that when you try to implement something new in your salah and you try to expand your salah, get more sweetness out of it, expand it more, expand that connection, you are also thinking more, you're more focused. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is find new du'as, more lengthier du'as that I can read between the 2 prostrations. If you don't know any, just go online, go on Google, type in du'a between 2 prostrations, and you'll find many. There's very, very short ones. There's some that are a little bit lengthier. If you don't even read a du'a between your prostrations, let's start off by trying to read a small one. There are some that are barely 1 to 2, 3 words. That can help you be more focused. And it's a great way, obviously, to gain more reward. If you have always read, maybe a shorter dua at between your 2 prostrations, let's read something longer. If you've always read a smaller surah, when you are done reading Fatiha, let's read something a little bit longer. Or if you're memorizing a new surah, you've memorized at least 3 to 4 ayahs of it, let's try to implement it right now in Salah. This is a great way to be more focused. Another thing I try to do is I try to plan out what surahs I'll read. Because that way, if my mind is wandering and I'm like, thinking about this, dilly-dally, oh, what surah was I supposed to read here? So sometimes I'll plan it out in a way where I'll be like, okay, I'll read, we just, whatever surah it might be, you can think, okay, I'll read the first couple ayahs of Yasin, or in the second time around, second ruku, I'll read the couple next ayahs of Ar-Rahman, or something like that. Or it can be the smaller surahs from Juz 30. Like, you can just think to yourself, I'm going to plan out this surah and this ruku. And that way, when time comes, you're thinking more cautiously, you got up, okay, what surah am I supposed to read right now? Oh yeah, I said that I would read Yasin, whatever. You read it. And that can help you be a little bit more focused and more aligned with what you have planned, and more focused and not just like, dilly-dally. Now, that's what I'll say on Salah. Let's talk a little bit about Quran. So, for starters, the letter says, the Quran also has a right upon us, that we read it daily, make time for its recitation, even if it is just 2 rukus a day, and thereafter increase gradually. Also, try to read Surah Yasin every morning. If you have not learned proper tajweed and pronunciation, make an effort to do so. It is wajib to learn to read the Quran correctly. While reading the Quran, think that this is the speech of Allah. I am listening to the speech of Allah. I am reading the speech of Allah. And since you are reading His speech, He is also listening to you. Another very, very beautiful piece of advice, obviously, from his letters. And I think that it's incredible as well. You guys have heard that analogy before where, people say, like, if someone you love gave you a letter, like, how many times would you reread it, right? Like, I know me, I love, 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 love letters. I have a box in my closet. It's literally humongous. It's just filled to the brim with letters. Because anyone who's like in my life knows that I love letters the absolute most. Cards, letters, like that, I feel like is the most heart-touching thing. And I know a lot of people say that and then they like chuck the letter aside. No, I keep each and every single one of my letters. I have letters from like my 11th birthday even. I keep them. They're so sweet and they mean so much to me. And I reread them. Like I reread them and I'm looking at every single word choice that you chose. And I'm like, wow, you feel that way? Like I love letters, right? And so I always tell myself that when I'm reading the Quran, this is not just what Allah has sent down down for mankind. This is something that I'm reading, and it's also for me. A lot of times we don't feel that individual connection with the Quran because, it has stories about this or that. You're like, it doesn't have what I'm looking for. It does. And a lot of times, people, they don't stray away from the surahs that are very, very popular and commonly heard of. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's a lot of surahs that are very, very well known that people just read. And then there's a lot of surahs in the Quran that a lot of people have never read before, or that they probably read once a year when they do the khatam of the Quran in Ramadan. So one of the things I like to do when it comes to Quran, here's a few tips. One, I try my best to always have the concept of doing like a khatam of the Quran going year around. That's not something that I do just in Ramadan. So what happens is, when Ramadan rolls around, a lot of people, you try to finish the Quran in that 1 month. So it's a schedule. Let's dissect it because there's a lot going on here. So here's how I do it. First, I think it depends on where you stand. If you don't read Quran point blank period, you need to start reading Quran, right? And like we said, even if it's just page and a half, 2 lines, whatever, start doing a little bit a day. And I think that the best way that you'll be able to be consistent with this to actually understand and see what you're reading, right? So if that's reading the translation, if that's reading the tafsir, that can help. Now, tafsirs can be a lot. I know that. Some of them are very, very long. There's a lot of short ones out there. There's Tazkirul Quran. That's a short one. They have it on Quran.com. If you go on Quran.com and you read the Quran on that website, you're very used to it. You know that if you click that little button that looks like a book, you click it, it shows different tafsirs. It has by Ibn Kathir, it has a bunch of other people. Some of them are a bit longer, some are a little bit shorter. Usually, if you're just starting out, maybe the shortest one can be beneficial for you. Marfi'ul Quran is another really good one. It's like the perfect in the middle. A lot of scholars have done like tafsir series and like lectures based off of it. It's like a perfect nice in the middle, especially for English to understand. That's a nice one. So you can read different tafsirs. Now, some people, they feel like that's a little bit much and they want to kind of have something else. Here's what I recommend. There is an app and there's a book. It's the Majestic Quran. It's like a blue app and the book is the Majestic Quran. It's like a blue cover. It's everywhere on Amazon, everywhere. And in the beginning of that book, it has really, really, really good backgrounds and intros and everything like that. I like theirs specifically, especially for their intros, because I feel like it's very, very organized and they tell you exactly what ayah they're talking about. So recently I started doing Surah Nisa, and in that one, it talks about how, okay, this is, it's very interesting the way they worded it. They said that in essence, you can kind of view this as like the PTSD, the aftermath of what happened at war after so many families and so many women were left widowed and there were so many orphans. So this surah is kind of talking about how we can take care of inheritance, how we can take care of taking care of the community, period. And then also how to establish authority and things among that nature. And I actually made like a little map on Surah Nisa because when I like to do my Quran journaling, this is what I do for my Quran journaling, by the way. When I like to do Quran journaling, I like to kind of have a surah that I just want to take my time on and focus in on and, whatnot in the third. Because if you're just reading, just reading the Quran and you're not connecting with it, you're not it's just words, right? And of course, you're still going to be rewarded for it. But really that deep connection comes with you putting in the effort to learn it. And that's the most important thing. So a lot of times, like when Ramadan comes around, people, they don't have time to sit here, Quran journaling each and every single ayah, each and every single thing. What some people do is they might just read the Quran with translation and try to do a khatam that way. But year around, I like to take more time to work on the Quran and build my knowledge with it. And that's when I do this. And that's why I'm sharing this. So if you, are a year around right now trying to figure out how you can build a connection, you can try this. So I have a notebook. I take that notebook and I like to read the Majestic Quran's intro. I like to make my own notes from it. Then I like to go online and I like to look at other notes, other books from other scholars regarding their summaries or their overview on that specific surah. Now, the game changer for me has been looking at maps, because until we don't look at the way that the Quran all connects together, we won't really be able to really deep it. For example, I'm going to share the one that I made for Surah Baqarah. I really want to one day make a YouTube video and show you guys how I Quran journal and everything, because I feel like it took me many, many years to figure out the proper way to Quran journal that worked for me. And there's a lot of different methods for Quran journaling, and I've tried many of them, and no one two is alike. There's very different ways to do it. There's some ways that are a little bit easier, some ways that require a little bit more effort, but then you connect better. I want to make a YouTube video one day, guys, but would y'all watch a YouTube video? Guys, I'm not that good either. I'm not YouTube quality like that. I'm really not. I'm just Rambo quality on a podcast. I feel like maybe a reel, maybe an IG reel, and I just show y'all how I do it. And so all y'all can see my books and how I make my Quran journal, because I swear I stayed rambling about it, but I've never showed y'all like physically. But let me tell you guys about the map that I made for Surah Baqarah, and I used some online sources to help me out. So I'm going to go nice and slow because I know that it's a lot when you're hearing it. So just try to visualize this with me. And if you want, I highly recommend you take a piece of paper and draw this out and write this down. So I'll go slow so you can do that, because that is a great way that you can kind of understand how I go about connecting with the Quran on a better level instead of just reading it. Okay, so I'm going to go through A to E, and then from E, I'm going to go D to A. I know you're like, what's going on? Just hang tight. Ready? Now, when we look at the way that Surah Baqarah is broken apart, we're going to categorize it by ayahs, by group of ayahs. A, ayahs 1 through 20, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about faith versus disbelief. Okay? Let's move to B. Now, when we look at B, from ayahs 21 to 39 of Surah Baqarah, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about his creation. He talks about the sins regarding Adam and Eve and things as such. Okay? Let's move to C. From ayahs 40 to 103, we talk about how Moses delivers the law to the children of Israel. It's talking about the deliverance of law. Okay? From D, from 104 to 141, we see the concept of being tested. Here we see how Ibrahim a.s. was tested, the Kaaba was built by Ibrahim and Ismail, and the responses to the people of the book. Now we come to E, where we are at 142 to 152, and this is the Kaaba is now the new Qibla, and this is again a test of faith in Allah for the people at the time. Now let's move to D. We're going to go backwards, D to A now, okay? So we're done with E, we're going to go from D. Now, if you remember previously, I said to you that D was Ibrahim a.s. being tested and how they built the Kaaba. And I said to you that the whole concept of D was being tested. Well, if you look again from 153 to 177, you will see that the Muslims will be tested. And it talks about the test of the Kaaba, Safa and Marwa, and the response to polytheists. So we see the concept of testing again. Now, if you remember what I said about C, I said to you earlier that between ayahs 40 to 103, I'd said that Moses gave the deliverance of law. Well, when you look at ayahs 178 to 253, we are again seeing deliverance of law by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and how he delivers the law to Muslims. Now, if you remember what I said about B, I talked to you about Allah's creation and how Allah was discussing Adam and Eve and things as such. Well, when you look at 254 to 284, it talks about God's creation, again, his encompassing knowledge, and it also regards charity and financial dealings. Coming back to A, if you remember from the very beginning, I said ayah 1 to 20 talked about faith versus disbelief. Well, Surah Baqarah closes off with ayahs 285 to 286, again talking about faith versus disbelief. I really, really hope that wasn't overwhelming, but I won't be surprised if it kind of was, because it's a lot to hear. Please don't be overwhelmed by it. If you want me to send you a picture of my chart, please DM me on Instagram and I'll send you the picture of it so it can kind of make more sense if you're interested. But my point is, first of all, don't be overwhelmed, because I know it's a lot to hear the numbers and be like, girl, what's going on here? Pause. But if you try, listen to this slowly and draw it out, you'll see the way it all connects, and it's very interesting. And so I try to do that with every surah. And right now I'm doing that for Surah An-Nisa, and it's very interesting, the same thing, the way that everything connects. And until you don't create that structure, a lot of times you'll think, why is Allah talking about faith here? And then what's going on here? Why are we talking about Ibrahim al-Islam being tested? There's a pattern and there's a way that it goes. And you have to take time to understand that. And that's one of the best ways to connect with the Quran, to see what is Allah talking about, what is the pattern, what is he discussing, and what can I learn out of this? Because it makes the connection so much deeper. I'm telling you, growing up, I used to be that person, and even the aunties, my mom used to brag about me to the other aunties about, oh look, here I did another khatam, here I did another one, she finished that. I used to be very quick at reading the Quran back to front. Alhamdulillah. But I'll be honest, growing up, I didn't really know anything. It wasn't until that I got older that I started Quran journaling, that I just started taking my time and not feeling rushed, I have to finish the entire Quran, in 3 months. No, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to understand and learn. What is Allah saying here? There's no deadline. It's fine. Allah has sent this book for us to understand. Don't feel like you have to rush through it, or that you just have to quickly finish the Quran and that's the way you can get the most reward. The best thing that you can do is understanding the Quran. You don't want these to be words that just go down your throat, that you're just saying to say. You really want to connect with them. Then the other thing I do when I Quran journal, after I make these maps, after I read the Majestic Quran's intro, after I read, different sources, like I kind of get a good background on what the surah is talking about, then I go in and I read that surah myself. You can read Arabic and the English translation. If you know Arabic, you can just, you know it, so you don't need a translation. But I read the surah itself, and with everything I like to make an ayah, I like a little note. So like, let's say there was an ayah that I really love, like, oh my god, ayah 15, it really was beautiful. I'll go in my notebook and I'll title the page like, oh, my own personal notes from the surah, and I'll write down little notes like, oh, ayah 15 discusses, how faith is very important and how it can encompass and change your life, something like that. Or if I come across a very, very beautiful dua, I'll share another one with y'all right now, a beautiful dua that I found in Surah Al Imran, if I'm not mistaken. JK, not Surah Al Imran, it's Surah Baqarah. It's the end of Surah Baqarah, ayah 201. It says, Our Lord, give us in this world that which is good, and in the hereafter that which is good, and protect us from the punishment of the fire. And this is a beautiful dua, and I was reading some commentary on it, and it talked about how it's very interesting how it covers 3 components, okay? Giving us good in this life, giving us good in the next life. But it doesn't stop there. It also says to protect us from the punishment of the fire. Because as you guys know, and a lot of y'all have probably heard this, that it is possible to go to hellfire and then, go to Jannah after it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. A lot of scholars have talked about it. But at the end of the day, like, it's not, that's another topic. But the point is that the torment of the fire, we want protection from it at all costs. We want to go to Jannah straight, point blank, period, right? And so I found this dua to be very beautiful in a way of encompassing all 3 important aspects of our life. And so little things like that, and I try my best to implement that dua in my everyday life. That is something that Quran journaling gave me in my life. It wasn't just another dua that I found online that I was like, oh, let me read this, There's another level of connection. And so that's what I'm saying. That's the best way that you can connect with the Quran, taking your time to learn it. Now, does everyone learn like this? No. A lot of people don't like to do a little aesthetic Quran journaling, They're like, I don't know about all that. Then, of course, like, even just reading the Majestic Quran, or I always recommend that one specific Quran. It's literally called the Quran, and it's like a black cover. Have it linked on my Instagram in books. I have all the books that I talk about linked on my Instagram and highlight called books. Whatever your favorite Quran is, you can read that too. And another really easy way to connect with it is to read the Quran, preferably one that has like the intros and explanations and footnotes and whatnot, and then read like a page and take a post-it and make a little summary about what you just read. So if you just read about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about, the hypocrites or something as such, then write about it. What were the traits of the hypocrites? What was Allah talking about? So it's not just like passive reading and you don't know what you just read. So I hope some of that was helpful when it comes in regards to the Quran. I rambled, definitely. Can you guys tell? So that was a little favorite moment. So let's move on to the next thing. Now let's talk a little bit about lying. When we read the initial letter that we started off with, it says that a person asked the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, if a Muslim can be a coward, i.e., is it possible that his weaknesses can be found in him? And he replied, yes. He was then asked if a Muslim can be miserly, and he again replied, yes. He was thereafter asked if a Muslim can be a liar, and he said no. That was a dark one. Lies are so far removed from Iman and such an extremely bad habit that Allah talks about it together with shirk. He mentions it together with shirk in the Quran. The Quran combines the sin of lying with the sin of idol worship in the same phrase. The fact that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, hated, detested, and abhorred lies would suffice as a deterrent to the one who claims to be his follower. The letter goes on to say, what has been said above should be sufficient to give up such a bad habit. If not, then when you have uttered a lie, inform the person you have lied to by saying, I'm in the process of reforming myself. One of my weaknesses is my habit of lying, and as part of remedying this weakness, I have to inform you that I've just spoken a lie. Please forgive me. Now, the thing is, how many people would be truthful enough to admit that they lied? Probably not many. But as the, letter mentions, that lying is one of the things that should not be found in a Muslim. It's something that we should stray away from as much as we can. That, I think, within itself should suffice. I think the other thing that also scares me about lying, and I think can help, is that I think to myself, okay, I've lied to this person. Let's say theoretically I lied to you about something, okay, and you believe me. And our relationship starts getting built off of lies. You have these perceptions. We are lying to each other. I've lied to you. I did the first one. You believed me. It's just a mess. It's a lying mess. The thing is, at the very end of the day, the truth always comes out. And I say that with a full chest. It always does. There is never a part or a point in lying. Never. Because at the end of the day, even if you lie, you get what you want, you go where you want to go, you get whoever you want. Like, there's going to come a time when, if not in this life, definitely in the next, but it could even happen in this life where you're punished and, even just the truth comes to be in front of these people's eyes that you lied. And the worst is that people will not want anything to do with you. That's what it comes down to. People will not want anything to do with you. In my opinion, this is just my thoughts. It is easier for me to look at someone who says to me, hey, I lied. I'm sorry. Like, I kind of got a little bit, flustered. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to hurt you. I lied. But that I will try my best to make sure that doesn't happen again. I will look at you with more respect than if you are someone that I have spent 17 years with and I find out one random day you lied to me about something. You know why? Because then I'm going to think that you lied to me about a lot of other things in those 17 years. That's that. And that's how it is in marriages. That's how it's in everything. Like your spouse lies to you about one thing. They say not to lie. Don't lie, period. Don't do it. It's not a good thing. But if your spouse lies to you about one thing, you saw something else on their phone, bro, that's it. Like after that, bro, crap's just it just like after that you just look at that person, you're like, do you even love me? Like, oh, you just in here, you love me, do you really? Like, why'd you marry me? Like all these thoughts start to come in your brain and you start to wonder, like, when this person says they love me, do they really mean it? When this person wanted to marry me, did they really mean it? Like, it takes one lie to have a relationship destroyed. One. It takes a lot to rebuild trust after that, and it's basically nearly impossible in my opinion. I have a really hard time trusting people, but I'm a firm believer in benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm not gonna scrutinize you or treat you less than or be like, oh my god, I can't trust you before you've proven me a reason not to. I'm not going to scrutinize somebody or treat somebody poorly because, oh, they're a new person, I don't know if I can trust them. Shoot, you can't trust nobody. Like, you can't trust nobody like that. Over time, you build connection, you build relationships, and then you're able to trust them. But if at some point, like, I've trusted you and then you broke my trust, yeah, that's a wrap, homie. That's a wrap for you. Like, that's it. And there's times where things could be fixed. Like, I'm not a person that doesn't believe in second chances. I always believe in second chances because I think that, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us so many chances, we should try to give chances to people. People mess up, like, it happens. And then, like, there's like a second chance, a third chance. But then after that point, I just feel like it comes down to, as a woman, I just feel like you don't appreciate and you don't respect loyalty and you don't respect trust. And at that point, I'm like, okay, yeah, bye. And that's just how I see things. But that's also the thing, that when I do trust, I trust very full-heartedly. So I'm a firm believer in when you do it right. So that's just that. And again, like, in between these lines, when you don't know whether to trust somebody, whether to not, I'm a firm believer in benefit of the doubt. Like, don't scrutinize somebody. Don't be like, oh my god, you're untrustworthy. Have they proven themselves to be untrustworthy? No. So it's like you shouldn't treat people poorly either. I remember I have received DMs before, even about sisters saying to me that they feel like they have an extreme lying problem. And I was like kind of shocked when I read it because it's very rare to hear people admit it. But I remember like a couple times I've had sisters tell me like I have a severe lying problem and it has ruined my relationships and I don't intend on doing it. It just happens. And I feel like sometimes when you're really used to it, you have to catch your mouth because it comes out very quickly, but then you feel stuck with it. Y'all have heard that saying, how it's like speech is your prisoner until you open your mouth and now you are its prisoner. Yeah. So I think that if you are someone who's very, very quick to lie, you need to be very, very slow to respond. That's the first thing. Because when you're in a heated argument, you're in a heated situation, your mind is all about, oh my God, you want to get defensive. You want to, defend yourself, whatever it might be. At any cost, you will lie. And so that's why you need to be slow at responding. How do you be slow at responding? Shut up. Just sit there. Just sit there and just think. Sometimes you literally have to like take your hand and just like put it on your mouth and just sit there and think. Let someone talk. Let them vent it out. They're going off you for 10 minutes straight, what have you. Let them just sit there and think. How am I going to respond to this? In a proper and ideal manner, maybe you'd have time to respond. But if you're in a heated discussion with somebody, maybe you don't. Maybe you have to give a response just then. Then you just have to sit there and think and think and think. And once you have realized that, okay, I know what I'm going to say, and you're going to ensure that it's not a lie. Ensure that it's not a lie. Don't open your mouth, because if you're about to lie, just don't open it. Just don't open it. If you feel like no matter what, if I open this mouth, I'm going to lie, don't open your mouth. Go leave the room. Because you're not making the situation better. You're making it worse. You're combobulating, adding on things. You're making it worse, and it's something that you're going to have to answer for on the day of judgment, okay? We're not trying to mix and match up in here. Close your mouth. Leave. If you have decided that I have enough self-control, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say something reasonable. I'm going to say something, educational, something smart. I'm going to make a good actual point. Go ahead and talk. Talk. Be wise about it. But if you know that you're going to lie, then just leave and be silent. And I think this is kind of like the similar thing with gossiping. When the letter talks about gossiping, it says that this too is a very major sin. Allah has prohibited this in the verse, nor speak ill of each other behind their backs. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of his dead brother? You would abhor it, but fear Allah. 49:12. Nay, you would abhor it, but fear Allah. 49:12. Yes. When we have so much to account for, our own actions, do we really need the burden of accounting for speaking ill of others as well, or having to contend with their sins as a recompense for backbiting? All you have to do is keep quiet. Why dishonor any person? Would you like that others speak ill of you? Disclose your faults by the means of your shame and humiliation and disgrace. No. So like for others, what you like for yourself. Simple. If you continue, go up to a person and tell her, I have made gossiping of you, and I request your forgiveness in this world. And that shall remedy the problem very quickly. How often would people be able to do that? Not often. And the same advice goes. Close your mouth. Close your mouth, bro. Just shut it. Shut it. Like, if you keep talking, bro, our tongue, I swear, like, it gets us in trouble in this life and in the next. Please just close your mouth. Like, it's one of those things that when you gossip. It's again one of those things you think you're being slick, you think you're being sly, you think you're getting away with it. It's gonna come forth to that person one day or another in this life or in the day of judgment. And then bam, you have to acknowledge and accept and say all these things. Are me and you less sinful that we're gonna sit here and start talking about people? Like, come on. Me and you, we've got enough of our own problems, bestie. Me and you, we got enough of our own problems, our own drama, our own sins, our own things that we're struggling with. I don't want anyone else's. And I know you don't either, okay? Look out for yourself. Look out for yourself. You know yourself, and you know what's gonna happen in this akhirat. Look out for yourself. Finally, I want to address the concept of being very, very materialistic. It says, do not forget your destination. It is not this world. It is the hereafter. This world is just a part of the journey. It was created for our use, but we were created for the akhirah and Jannah, inshallah. Make use of the things of this world. Enjoy the material bounties given, but do not give your heart to sand. Give your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not invest all your energies and time and money and effort in a world that will perish, and which you too will be leaving. It must not be that we return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as losers. Try to curtail visits to shopping areas since we become easily normed by the different or new products on the market. This tempts us to spend unnecessarily and even lavishly beyond our means, which is sinful. If we cannot afford those items, our heart will be restless and in grief. So we spare ourselves that unnecessary grief by going out only in necessity. If you're someone that struggles with materialism, or you're just a very, very materialistic person, and even if it's not actual items, just like an idea of a lavish life, a big home, like, lifestyle, please understand. So you know how some people say dunya, some people say deen over dunya, right? You can listen. You can use this dunya to work for your deen, okay? We are all here. This is a very small stepping stone in our journey to our akhirat. Every single second that goes by is a second that you're going to be asked about. You are so busy accumulating wealth, thinking that this is what's going to save you. It's not going to save you. On the day of judgment, you could ransom the entire earth. Nothing's going to be enough for you. Furthermore, just another thing. Allah made Jannah, right? And He also made us. And He also made you, hopefully who's listening, a Muslim. And you know that to go to Jannah, being a Muslim, doing righteous acts, these are so incredibly important things. Allah has paved this path for you. You know the Quran, you know the Sunnah, you know who Allah is. You know what to do and how to get to Jannah. Why are you getting distracted by lavish things? Don't all disbelievers, so many disbelievers, don't they all have the dreams or even some the access to lavish things? Why do you want the same things as them? There's nothing wrong with, working hard and striving for those things. But do not make that your entire time on earth. One of the very, very interesting ways that I was reading about how the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, divided his day to ensure productivity, I found 3 very, very interesting divisions that he did. The first division is spiritual development. So this was a time he dedicated solely to Allah, and it was typically at the late part of the night when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, would recharge himself spiritually for the next day and would boost his resolve to face the challenges in his mission. And it was during the night that he engaged in intimate communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he made dua, he did qiyam, he did all those things, dhikr. And then you'll notice that the next section was family affairs. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was very consistent making time for family matters. We know he helped out in the home and things as such. He was very good to his wives, whatnot. Then when we talk about personal and social affairs, as a third part, he consistently made time for his followers, so no one felt neglected or had their affairs swept under the carpet. This was a time when men and women would come with their problems, with their personal, marital, financial, spiritual, all types of problems, and he would help them. He would help and listen to them. And you'd also see that he would address, different political conflicts, leadership problems, whatever it might be. So you can kind of think of this in your own way, wake up at the Hajj time, do Qiyamul Layl, do these different things. Dhikr, read Quran then. Really have that intimate moment with Allah at that time. That is you and Allah's time, okay? Don't think about anything else in that time. When you wake up, you start your day. Maybe you have work, school. Focus on work or school. That's your block of the day. We want to be purposeful Muslims. We're not saying to just not contribute anything to the world. A lot of the Muslims that came before us contributed incredible things. We want to be the best in what we do, but don't think that that is all you have to offer. Don't think that that's all you're made for. You were made for a whole complete afterlife, and that's my point. Priorities. Focusing on priorities. And if you live a purposeful life here, if you live a good life here, inshallah, you will be rewarded for it. I read a quote that said, "Time is limited, death is certain. However, our intentions to live a productive life and to serve Allah and His creation will itself be enough to count as a positive action." And that's what I'm saying. Don't forget why you're doing what you're doing. And also, if you're a shopaholic and you got shopping problems, stay at home. Lock your card from yourself. Pookie, I don't know what else to say to you. Lock your card from yourself. Be very financially smart, okay? Be financially smart. This wealth that you accumulate and that you mass up and that you keep buying and all these things you're going to have to answer for on the day of judgment. My mom always says that she always says that as things, as facilities and all these, luxury, different things in your life increases, sometimes your problems increase more too. And growing up, I was like, no, it's not true. And then I got older and I was like, yeah, she's kind of right. Like, I think about the times when I had nothing, and oh my God, like I was a lot different. And now, like, alhamdulillah, things are different and I'm also different. So it's weird, but it's also very true. So please focus on the real image, focus on why we were made, focus on the real purpose. Invest your time in being productive and doing purposeful things for your akhirat and in this life to contribute good, to help people. Spend your time trying your best to connect with the Quran, hold yourself accountable when it comes to Salah, and do the things that you need to do. These are the things that are really going to take you far in life. These are the things that are going to benefit you. These are the things that are going to help you go to Jannah, inshallah. I hope this episode was kind of helpful and it helped cover a bunch of topics that a lot of people might struggle with. If I forgot anything or you guys wanted something in specific, please do let me know on my Instagram. I'll be happy to listen. Oh yeah, follow me on Instagram. Shameless promo, Islamic feelings with 2 S's at the end. Please take care of yourself. Have a great rest of your day. Assalamu'alaikum.